Yeah!
How's it going, everybody? So, it was over half a year ago that we got the announcement of Rayman's big return in the form of the third DLC expansion for Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope. The DLC is still slated for late 2023, and we recently just got the teaser for the second DLC pack, The Last Spark Hunter. With us just getting the teaser for the second DLC, I think it's still going to be a bit until we hear about the Rayman pack, but either way, I'm super excited for Rayman to finally come back in some form, so I figured I'd go over what I want to see in this expansion to the game. First things first, I want to talk about how I think this DLC could be structured. Based on what we already know from the teaser, it sounds like this adventure is going to solely focus on Rayman, Rabbid Mario, and Rabbid Peach. Note how there's no mention of any other characters besides these three. No Rayman characters, no Mario, no Rabbid characters. Now, while I still think that we will see some more Rayman characters in this DLC, I think these will be the only playable characters. Similar to how the Donkey Kong adventure from Kingdom Battle only had DK, Rabbid Peach, and Rabbid Cranky playable. I think this sounds like a pretty well-rounded party, especially if they want to put more of the focus on Rayman in this expansion. Which brings me to, how is Rayman going to be in this expansion? We already know the movesets for the Rabbid heroes from the base game, but Rayman is still unknown. If I had to guess, Rayman is most likely going to be the stand-in for Mario, being the central hero, the party leader, being well-rounded and whatnot, but I could also see him taking some traits from Luigi, sort of filling in the ranged character, seeing as we're going to be missing a lot of roles from the base game. At first I was thinking of having Rayman use an actual weapon, like possibly his plunger gun from Raving Rabbids, but having Rayman using his fists as sort of long-range projectiles feels much more fitting. I could see his fists acting identical to Mario's dual slinger weapon, firing off 2 shots within a single attack phase. His helicopter hair is also going to come into play, I think, because it'll probably be his replacement for Beepo's helicopter mode, and I think Rayman's version will actually give him a much larger range of movement than most characters. And for Rayman's ability, I'm assuming that it's going to be some variation of Hero Sight or Steely Stare. It seems to be that that's a trend that sort of the leader of the party gets that, because they did that for DK in the Donkey Kong Adventure pack as well. And one final thing that I want to touch on with general gameplay for this pack is I'm hoping that it's going to be much more challenging than base game. Because we're down to just the 3 characters, I want there to be a lot more strategy involved. I mean, that's sort of what happened with Donkey Kong in Kingdom Battle, so I would expect it to be a similar situation in this game. The base game was not necessarily like too easy, but having more of a challenge would definitely be something nice to have. Okay, so we've gone through gameplay, we've gone through how Rayman could play in this expansion, now on to the fun stuff. How are they going to incorporate the Rayman universe as a whole into this? So the one thing that I can't stop thinking about whenever I look at the image for the DLC is how exactly do all these characters come together in the first place? You see sort of this weird like portal type situation with Rayman coming out of it. It looks like they're being launched out of a portal, and there's a bunch of items in the background. So I'm guessing this has to do something with the washing machine, time machine thing the Rabbids have, because it looks like all of these things, all these characters are pulled from different parts of the universe, and that would explain how Rayman's here. Basically a repeat of how Mario and Rabbids started in the first place, with the washing machine just pulling stuff in from different universes and just making this big amalgamation type universe. And that's what I think the world is going to be in this. Not specifically taking from one Rayman game, but rather an amalgamation of Rayman's entire history. You could get some of the darker stuff from Rayman 2 and 3, but then also the really whimsical and wacky lands from Rayman 1. I see a paintbrush, a record player in the teaser. Maybe that could be like Picture City and Bandland from Rayman 1. And of course, I'd also like to see stuff like the Fairy Glade, the Cave of Bad Dreams, the Bog of Murk, Land of the Living Dead, just so many different places from different Rayman games all coming together. And I think that'll extend into sort of the enemy variety too. Like, I'm not just expecting enemies from 1, enemies from 2. I'd love to see just a ton of them. Imagine like a little section of pirate ships, for example, and you fight Rabbid versions of the Robo Pirates and Razorbeard, or have Rabbid versions of the Hoodlums. Like, Hoodlum Rabbids feels perfect for this game. It just feels wacky enough. We've already seen the Rabbids wearing sort of makeshift costumes, so I think that would make sense. Now, I do still think that this expansion is going to have a central antagonist, and I think it's going to be Mr. Dark. You already have the Dark Mess. You've got Cursa. You could turn Mr. Dark into more of this cosmic threat, and maybe he fused with whatever torso's made of, and it made him a bigger, more threatening villain. But I think that this could also be a good opportunity to have a Rabbid version of a Rayman enemy, and I think that'll come in the form of Ramesis, or Dark Rayman, whatever you want to call him. But basically you take this character who's a dark clone of Rayman, a character who exists only because of Rayman, and then you make him a Rabbid, a series that exists because of Rayman. You can sort of see where I'm going with this. Sort of the idea that, oh, the Rabbids took Rayman's franchise from him, they're evil, and there's room for meta commentary, sort of taking fun little jabs at the series as a whole, all in good fun, of course. But beyond the enemies, beyond the gameplay, the world, there's still a lot of other fun stuff that I would love to see. Like, of course, I'm really hoping that Rayman has a chance to interact with Mario himself. I have a feeling that's not going to happen, but oh my gosh, they have this perfect opportunity to finally have these platforming icons interact for the first time, and I really want to see it. And of course, I'm still hoping that we see more Rayman characters throughout the world too. Characters like Globox, Barbara, Lee the Fairy, Batilla the Fairy. Maybe they take the form as NPCs in the overworld that you talk to. Maybe they give you a side quest, like maybe in the overworld you'd be freeing Teensies, Electoons, maybe even the Sparks from cages, sort of in that classic Rayman fashion. Just incorporating those classic Rayman elements into the game. That'd be a really fun thing to see. Honestly, the Rayman series as a whole crossing over into this universe, it just feels like a perfect fit. Mario and Rabbids already have that sort of surreal, wacky, colorful aesthetic that lines up with stuff that we've already seen in the Rayman franchise for years. So this was something that I feel was going to happen one way or another, and I'm happy that it's happening now. And who knows, maybe this could be Ubisoft testing out the waters for a Rayman 4 or just a Rayman revival in general. I mean, we've got the new updated design for Rayman. I would hate to see it go to waste, but I'm happy to see him back in some form either way. And if the DLC is still coming out in 2023, hopefully we won't have to wait too much longer to hear actual news about the DLC expansion. But for now, I think that's enough out of me. So if you guys like this video, feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Later.